Natalie from nataliemurraycollins.com. Today I'm going to be summarizing something that's super important and something that I feel that a lot of us, including myself for a long time, get really hung up and caught up on. So that thing is the difference between projects versus tasks. And the reason why I feel that this is such an important subject matter to talk about is because when you're setting up your to-do list, if you notice that things don't get done on your list because that one particular thing is so incredibly big that your mind just kind of glazes over and does this thing where it shuts down because it's too much of something to handle, this is what we're going to be talking about today. So in the book, Getting Things Done by David Allen, he breaks it down beautifully into the difference between a project versus a task. Now, this book is really long, so I'm going to summarize it for you really quickly. Basically, a project is something that has multiple tasks inside of it, and a task is something that's really short and, basically more simple to do. Actually more simple for your brain to wrap itself around. So when it comes to your projects, for example, say you have a newsletter that needs to go out to your list, and the newsletter itself, like if you put on your to-do list, send out newsletter. Well, the newsletter is a big project. If you break it down and know that inside of the newsletter, you have to have blog posts, you have to have all these different things that go into the newsletter. You got to have your summary, you got to have, like this whole list of things to do inside of creating your newsletter. Your newsletter is a project, and each one of those things inside of that project, if you break it down, so for instance, your blog post is going to be a task inside of your newsletter project. So if you write down create blog post for your newsletter inside of that task, dun, 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 you just created a to-do on your list of things to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the downward view, and I'm going to show you how that works inside of the Biz Plan book so you can get a visual of what it is and how to actually break down your projects versus tasks so that you can get out of the overwhelm state and into that ease and flow of, yes, you can get this done. Okay, so what I'm looking at is the Biz Plan book inside of the Good Notes app. If you don't know how to use this, you can check out my previous video on the digital version of the Biz Plan book, and it will show you how to import in the digital version of the Biz Plan book into the Good Notes app. I'm using an iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil. Now, the pencil only works with the iPad Pro. If you don't have an iPad Pro, that's okay too. You can use a regular iPad with a stylus, but I like the way that the Apple Pencil really gets in and gives me the detail that I need without having to zoom in. If you're using a stylus, you may want to zoom in and write that way. You might get more precision in that way. So what I'm looking at is the end of the week stuff that I have going on. And you'll see today is Friday, and I have make video, write blog post for video, and these tasks are all part of my newsletter. And we talked about newsletter being a big project. Now on the next page, I moved my notes page to be right after this page so that we can have a better user experience. So what I want to do is I'm going to write down, and I'm going to brainstorm out the newsletter stuff. So I'm going to write this as a newsletter project, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight that so I know that that's my header. And I'm going to brainstorm out all the different things that need to go into the newsletter and all the different things that need to happen in order to make the newsletter happen. So that's going to be things like creating a video. I like to do my videos and put them up as blog posts. That would be, I need to write the blog post. I need to write the intro or update for the newsletter. And if there's any upcoming things that I have going on. I know next week I'm going to be, or was it next week? The week after next, I'm going to be at an event that I'm going to be facilitating masterminds for. So any updates that I have going on where people can see me in person. There's also, I know that I have sales stuff coming up, but I'm not going to put that in the newsletter. So that's going to be something that I have to think through in order to know that is the sale coming up something that I want to have in the newsletter, or there's just different dynamics and things of stuff that goes into the newsletter. So whatever it is, any kind of promotions. So you can see that the newsletter outline has already started to happen. So when it comes to the video itself, so that's something that I'm doing today. That is more of it can be a bigger project depending on how big the video is. So I could break down the video into its own next project and really use, create intro, talking head, which you saw, create down view, which is what we're doing now, create outro, thank you, actually outro wrap up, I'm going to call it the wrap up, edit, splice everything together, and you get the point with that. So you can see that there are projects within the project. So breaking it down into these areas right here. Now I know that this is going to be a little project area, and I can go ahead and something that I like to do is just circle this and know that this is an area, this is an area, and I can do the same thing for a blog post, going through writing the intro update to the newsletter. Oh, that in and of itself is, I consider, a task. Any updates, that might be a little project where it's finding the individual updates themselves and putting them all together in a particular area, and any kind of promos. So these can be considered, I would consider those to be tasks. So this is a task, this is a task, and this is an individual task. And these are more project based. So, and then the blog post, I can create a separate area. And I'm going to use my yellow highlighter and then go back to that. So my blog post can be, part of the video is upload to YouTube. So with the blog post, I'm just going to delete that. So I'm going to get the embed, code for video. I'm going to write the blog post. I'm going to publish it and blast to social media. And then I'm going to put it in the newsletter. So you can see how putting together the newsletter in and of itself is a huge project. And so by breaking these individual areas down, your brain is actually able to wrap itself around each of the different steps that have to happen throughout this. So you know that if you're planning a newsletter, if you have a weekly newsletter, a bi-weekly newsletter, or a monthly newsletter, however that looks, by taking these individual tasks and then being able to transfer it onto the calendar area of your biz plan book, or whatever calendar that you use, whatever planner it is that you use, by being able to say, okay, so maybe Tuesday is video day, Wednesday you put together the blog post, and Thursday is when your newsletter goes out and when all of this stuff comes together. So you'll know that you've given yourself the amount of time that you need in order to get this accomplished. Now, if you were to have just the generic put newsletter together on Thursday, chances are, if you don't do fast videos, if you take a long time to do blog posts, if there's, all these different components that happen within this, if it takes you a long time, chances are you're not going to do it because it's too overwhelming for your brain to handle. So by breaking it down into these individual things, your brain can say, oh, well, the next step that I have is I need to create the intro talking head. Easy peasy, can totally do this. And then by taking those individual things, you can put them on your calendar itself. And this is what the Biz Plan book looks like. This is July, and you can go in, like today I have make video projects versus tasks. That's what I'm doing now. I also have time to write the blog post for the video. So I know that since I have broken this down and I know what it takes and how long it takes for each one of these things to happen, I know that I can do this in a day. But it doesn't happen like this every time. It depends on what else I have going on inside of my calendar and what else is happening for that time frame. So by knowing that I can get it done all on this day, I will go ahead and schedule that. But if I have other things that have popped up for that day, I can look ahead and project that and come in and see, okay, maybe I need to make my video on Thursday or Wednesday. What does that look like for you? So this is how you break up and break down and the difference between a project versus a task inside of your business planning. You can do this with any of your projects in order to get things done. And I hope this video has helped you in your production and moving things forward. Thanks for watching. I hope that was super helpful for you. And if you liked what I had to teach you and share with you today, give this a thumbs up. And don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you want your own copy of the digital version of the Biz Plan book, head on over to nataliemarie collins.com/digital to get your copy.